Well, we're going to talk about the manufacturing sector in Singapore because it's something that we don't really realize is very much ingrained in our everyday lives.
For example, the one item that we can't function without, even for just one day, is our phones.
That's right.
And over 10% of the world's semiconductor chips, which power every smartphone on the planet, are produced from factories right here in Singapore.
Well, Singapore has positioned itself as a manufacturing hub with multinational companies locating their strategic or regional headquarters here. We're among the top 10 largest global exporters of high-tech goods. We also produce 4 of the world's top 10 drugs.
The key production areas are electronics like semiconductor chips and computer peripherals, biomedical products like pharmaceutical ingredients and medical devices, precision engineering including optical instruments and metal precision components, and general products such as food, beverages and apparel.
Well, joining us now to share more about the manufacturing sector is Singapore Economic Development Board's Executive Vice President Lim Kok Kiang. Welcome to the show. So, this sector, the manufacturing sector, accounts for more than 20% of GDP and employs around 12% of Singapore's workforce. Kok Kiang, how would you describe these figures and how important, manufacturing is to Singapore considering our small population and land size?
Well, thank you. I would say that the figures are significant and that manufacturing is important for Singapore for a number of reasons. I'll mention 3. First and foremost, I think manufacturing at 20% of GDP, along with services, are our twin engine of growth. So manufacturing actually provides resilience and diversity to our manufacturing base or to our economic base. If you look at 2020, the manufacturing output grew by 7.3%. And again, it's an example of how manufacturing acts resilience in a very difficult environment. Number 2, actually manufacturing allows us to keep in touch with technology. Manufacturing accounts for more than 50% of the business expenditure in R&D, while contributing 20% of GDP. What this means is basically manufacturing sector invests substantially in innovation, in R&D, in products and processes. And this accumulation of technological capabilities is very useful, and it could in future be deployed in new areas of growth or adjacent areas of growth, whether in manufacturing or in services. So that's number 2. And number 3, of course, needless to say, manufacturing creates good job opportunities for people in Singapore. So 12% is a significant number. Now, maybe allow me to add this, which is basically manufacturing in Singapore competes on a global basis. So manufacturers continue to look at ways and means to upgrade, upskill, and transform their manufacturing operations in order to be competitive, doing more with the same, doing more with less. And I think it's this drive towards productivity that actually allows us to actually grow and compete in the manufacturing sector while being mindful of the resource constraints, whether land or labor in Singapore.
Kok Kiang, despite the pandemic, manufacturing had a 7.3% growth last year, and Singapore wants to grow its manufacturing sector by 50% by 2030. What are the bright spots in manufacturing for Singapore that can drive the sector to meet this target?
I think if you look at, despite the challenging environment, I think we see sectors such as electronic semiconductors, precision engineering, in the biomedical science side of the house, medtech, I think doing relatively well as part of the established sectors in Singapore. So we see companies like Thermo Fisher, Becton Dickinson, continuously expanding their operations here. At the same time, we're also seeing, newer industries or growth opportunities coming up in the areas of mobility, for example, where Hyundai is investing in an innovation center here in Singapore, including a manufacturing operation. And in the area of agri-tech, where we see a company like Just actually investing in a plant in Singapore to produce ingredients for plant-based eggs. So whether in established industries or in new growth areas, we're seeing opportunities, in this sector.
Right. Well, what then are the opportunities for Singaporeans, especially considering that we're trying to position ourselves as a business hub for multinational companies?
I think in those areas and sectors that I mentioned earlier, there are definitely opportunities for Singaporeans to participate and grow as the sectors evolve and transform in Singapore. Perhaps allow me to add also that in the past perhaps there was perception about the manufacturing environment being a little bit hot and dirty, but I think that has evolved over a period of time as well. I mean, we talked about the fact that companies are constantly looking at improving processes, transforming the operations, upskilling the workforce. So the job roles and scope and the operating environment in the shop floor has improved tremendously. If I were to give an example, Infineon, a semiconductor company that has substantial manufacturing operations here, over the years, they have continuously looked at ways to upgrade and upskill the operations, making it best in class. Above and beyond that, they have announced that they are setting up their global AI innovation center here in Singapore. And what this endeavors to do is really, as part of it, training 1,000 of their employees with AI capabilities, upskilling them with AI capabilities, so that the team can then look at developing and deploying AI solutions to improve different aspects of the business operations and the shop floor. So this is an example where a company continues to evolve their process, upskill the workforce, so the workforce is able to contribute more in terms of new areas to improve processes. So by and large, I think there's opportunities for the workforce here. At the same time, for those of us who are more inclined to look at new technology areas, I'll give an example of additive manufacturing or 3D printing. Today in Singapore, there's an ecosystem of over 200 companies, from big companies like HP and the Thyssen Group, Evonik, to young, smaller companies, emerging companies like 3D Metal Forge. And the whole community is working hard to look and see how to develop and deploy additive manufacturing process and solutions into the different manufacturing sectors. So again, this would provide opportunities for people who want to involve themselves in new manufacturing processes to actually come on board as well. So all in all, I would say that whether in the more established industries, looking at deploying new technologies, or even in nascent manufacturing technology, additive manufacturing, I think the scope for opportunities in the manufacturing sector will continue to be a very attractive one.